the I Don't Know Running podcast, where we share our experiences that make running fun and sometimes not so fun. I'm Lewis, and I'm a self-admitted lazy ultra runner, and I'm just setting up the final episode of our recording at the Amway Riverbank Run training run a couple weeks ago now. And in this episode, we're actually going to speak to somebody who probably knows more about the Riverbank Run than just about anybody. She's been with the race for some, 35 years of the 5-ish that it's been going. She started off as a volunteer and then was hired on, a few years later or something like that. At any rate, Lauralee is joining us in this final episode of the Amway Riverbank Run training run episode 3, I guess you could call it, of that series. Anyway, she sits down with us and tells us a lot more about the race, the history of the race, some of the progressions of the race from the very beginning stages, how she got involved, how some other people got involved, how Amway then got involved, some things like that. Some of the different sponsors of the race throughout the years, as well as some of the logistics that go into putting on a number one, an amazing event like this, but a very big event like this in the Grand Rapids area. I mean, this is a large race anyway when it comes to running, and then to have it right here locally, that's pretty cool. So anyway, she sits down with Mitch and I to discuss that, and just want to thank everybody for listening. Again, please go share this with somebody that might enjoy this content, whether they're a runner or they just like listening to stories about running or whatever. Or they're thinking about getting into running. Anyway, be sure to share it with them, like it, subscribe, and hope you enjoy this week's episode. Well, hey, everybody. I want to just take a minute to welcome Lauralee to the podcast. Welcome.
Welcome. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Lauralee has been with the race for 37 years, with a Riverbank Run for 37 years. Started off as a volunteer, essentially, back when it was Old Kent.
Yes.
And now, why don't you just give us what is it you do now? What is your title today?
I am the operations director.
So you manage everything.
Everything.
So this is a full-time, round-the-year job for you.
Yes.
Yeah, and you have done that for about how many years now?
It has been 22.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And I thought it was really interesting, just talking to you yesterday a little bit. Could you share how you wound up in that role?
Oh, yes. Well, it started, I moved to Grand Rapids in 86. And so this is really going to date me, right? So in 1986, I missed the Old Kent Riverbank Run by a couple months, and I had been involved in 5Ks back home, just helping out, making them all happen. And then when I found out about the Old Kent Riverbank Run, it's like, oh my gosh, I have got to get myself involved. So 1987, I was right there volunteering as an aid station volunteer. And then the following year, I became an aid station captain. So then in 1989, I joined the committee managing aid stations, and it's just developed from there. Took a 2-person task down to 1 person, and just continue to get more involved every year. And then in 2002, when Fifth Third and Old Kent merged in 2000, officially in 2001. And in 2002, my full-time job at the bank was eliminated. And the bank asked the race director at the time to hire me. And that's how it came to be. So
you basically started out volunteering at an aid station 37 years ago.
Yeah.
For the race, but at the time, Old Kent encouraged people to be a part of the race?
Oh, most definitely. I would say, back then I think there was 5,000 plus Old Kent employees in the greater Grand Rapids, West Michigan area. And it was you were proud. You were proud
Yeah.
to volunteer for it. And they, executives from the bank were very much involved. I can remember our volunteer parties after the race, and one picture always comes to mind of John Canepa, and he had a hula hoop around his hips at the volunteer party, and he's out there with all the volunteers, many employees, and just having a grand old time. And of course, the beer kept flowing, so that helped,
That's
right?
important.
Yeah.
So
But
that's relatively not long after if it's 46 years old, I think, right now,
Yes,
right?
yes.
So 37 years ago, it's still a relatively new race. So what did it grow pretty quick? Was it still a big race back then?
When I joined it was just the 25K.
Okay.
Just the 25K was there, and we were starting the race on Ottawa Avenue, running towards Michigan, and then looped around, and then went out down along the river, turned around, and came back. And it finished up on Calder Plaza.
Okay.
So that was, that was 10 years into it when I first got involved. And that finish line up on Calder, I mean, it was just cool. You had the chutes, and everything was old school back then.
Yeah.
It was pulling bib,
Oh,
the
my
bib
goodness.
tags, and running them up to get recorded. And the medical tent was actually inside the county building. That's where all the cots were, and the medical team were, and it was just cool. I remember probably 89, 90 maybe. Alan Page from the Minnesota Vikings came and ran the race, and he's this big, tall, 6+ foot
NFL player.
Yeah, and he had a purple hat on.
Of course.
And I remember seeing him jog down Ottawa towards Michigan because you could follow that hat. I mean, you could pick that hat out of the crowd because he just was so much taller than everybody else around him at the time. And it was just cool. It was just a really cool thing. We would put snow fencing around barrels of water. The fire department would come down and fill big barrels of water, and then we would wrap snow fencing around it, and that was our finish line.
Oh my goodness!
So you've
seen it change a lot.
A lot, from hardly any technology to having bib tags now, built into your bibs that, you cross the mat and you get your finished or your split or whatever.
Oh my goodness,
almost instantaneously. I mean, there's a little delay, but not much.
And I'm just thinking you're literally going back to the days of, like you said, pulling tags off bibs, which a lot of runners today don't even understand what those tags are.
Right.
Which are still on some, which is funny because almost no races do that anymore.
Right.
In order to score and place people. And today it's all just
the
automatic.
popsicle sticks, you used to get the popsicle sticks.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I remember that in high school.
I started running so late that, I remember the tag on the shoe.
Yeah.
Now it's all built in.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't even, it's disposable now. You don't even have to return it. Collecting those tags, those years, people would come into the finish line and they'd have to stop and they'd have to take the tag off of them.
And keep people in order.
Because
if it's a quick, people are fighting for a finish or a few people, you got to line them up and make sure, hey, stay in order.
Right. And then with the tags, the shoe tags, taking them off, people were wobbling because they're they went
those were
from
tied on.
Yeah.
You usually
and
did.
you couldn't get them off very easily.
Because you were using the ones you would reuse.
Yes. The chips, the shoe shoe tags. So, we had chairs set up in the finish line because sometimes you couldn't get that tag off their shoe. So they'd have to sit down, or fencing that they'd stick their foot up on, and volunteers would be down there removing that because the participant couldn't. And, how you can get lightheaded, bend over and, and then you bring your head back up and your blood pressure's way out of whack. And, a lot of those days.
Well, I was thinking about this too. Another thing that came to my mind is this is the only race this organization puts on throughout the year too, right?
Yes.
Like there's no, like a lot of race organizations will put on multiple races. This is it.
Right.
So there's a lot of equipment that has to go somewhere else and be stored and only comes out once a year.
Yeah, a lot of our vendors, we've got a lot of vendors that come in and bring in our fencing and that. So a lot of the infrastructure is provided by those vendors. But our finish line structure gets stored. And we've had that for a long time. And it fits the street. It was built actually built for Ottawa Avenue because that's where the finish line had been.
Yep.
So when, let's see here, 2021, when we had to change the race to October.
Yep.
And there was, we could not use the same roads that year.
Right. So we had to revamp the course. The 25K course got revamped. And we were finishing up on Ottawa, a traditional location. The finish line structure didn't fit because the city had changed the structure of the streets. Every intersection, every crosswalk was extended.
Oh, my goodness.
So we had to come up with something else. So our Lakeshore Athletics out of Chicago does a lot of our fencing and our timing clocks and all of that. And they brought in a truss system. And we use that as our finish line. And it's just like, we can't do this anymore. The street's too narrow with all of these little juts that they've put out for extending the crosswalks. So that's why the course changed last year for May, is that we flipped it. Start is now on Ottawa, and we're finishing on Monroe. So the course is actually a little more of the tradition going back 40 years.
Gotcha. Nice.
So we're running the Butterworth Hills backwards.
So so the race that you ran in the fall,
yes,
is more the traditional.
No.
That was completely different.
Yeah, it was an out and back, and it was an out and back, and it kind of wiggled around and finished on Ottawa, started on Monroe. So that part was normal.
Gotcha.
I had heard rumors that you couldn't get the permits that you wanted to because there was other people that that had rented facilities and stuff, and they couldn't trump over what other people had done. And I heard that was part of the...
At DeVos Place, we had a little bit of finagling to do with the inside stuff. But we didn't have too many problems.
I was thinking...
it was the date. The date.
Yeah.
That was the issue, is finding the date that worked, because everybody shifted to the fall that year because it was, we were planning on May 2021, bringing it back, traditional second Saturday in May. And then, COVID hung around.
Yeah.
And then everybody was like, okay, everybody's pushing everything to the fall. And the 21st or the 24th of October was the only weekend that we could do it. So it happened.
It did?
The Grand Rapids Marathon was right before us. So that kind of messed things up because... the marathoners use Riverbank Run as their training for their spring, summer, and fall marathons. So it just kind of...
I did both that year.
You did?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Of course.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, so, COVID just impacted everything, right? And the running industry definitely felt it. But then to turn the event around in 6 months... for May of 2022.
Yes.
That was a challenge.
Yeah.
And I had 3 course changes on top of it because of flipping that start and finish line. I had to revamp the courses, and my goal has always been, when I've looked at courses, to minimize street closures and GRPD use because we have well over 100 officers involved with the race.
Wow.
So if I spread the race out too far, then I've got a need for more officers because they're on every corner. And so it's sometimes a challenge to revamp things. So it worked out. It's from my perspective, it's not perfect, but it's working.
Yeah. Can you? I thought it was really interesting. Did you have something? On
No,
that?
I was going to say, is this course the revert? I say
What it
reverse
currently
course,
is.
but like the traditional, going back to the traditional, what started. That's what we're looking at going forward now.
Yep.
This is closer to the original.
Yes. Yep.
'Cause I did like the hills at the end. I don't know why. I think I'm one of the only people
Oh,
that
you
like
are
that.
one of the only ones.
Yeah, I like it.
I don't mind it because it's a nice challenge.
It is. Like you get to that last little bit, and it's like you just think, all I got to do is get through these hills on Butterworth, and I attack each one.
Yeah.
But now you got them on the front end, and then you have flat on the back end.
Yeah.
But you still have the finish coming up, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
There's a little.
No, we finished different. We finished.
Because you're coming up on Fulton, and
We finish in front of DeVos Place.
DeVos.
now.
Right. Yeah.
So you don't come up Ottawa anymore.
Yeah, you don't.
No, but there's a little bit of an incline.
There is. Yeah.
But it's not.
Not like it
it's,
used
It's
to
not
be.
the hill.
That was always my favorite. That last little
Yeah.
pit, and you finish, and you watch those people come in.
Yeah. The hill between Lewis and Monroe Center that everybody
Hates.
The hill.
Yeah, I love it. But it's such a that is or in the past that was, I know, just running it for whatever, I don't know, the picture that like scene or like when you view that as a runner coming in, even though there's this hill in your face, and it's not a huge hill, let's face it, but it is a hill. Everything's framed up really nice, and so for a runner, you get energized from it. I feel like because you can see the crowd, and you can see the lining of the people in the street, and it curves around, and it just from a picture standpoint, I always liked that view.
I know last year coming out of the tunnel, you know, like that last little bit, you're all shaded, and it got warm.
Oh yes.
As soon as I hit that section, I was
That's
like,
right.
"Oh my gosh!"
Oh, I
that
do
was
remember
hot.
running it now because we compared.
Yes.
What did we compare?
How long it was coming out of the tunnel
that's
to the
right.
finish.
From the tunnel to the finish. That's right.
Yeah.
That's what it
Yeah,
was.
it's 3 miles, three and a half miles.
See, I was right.
What did I say?
You said like 2. I'm like,
okay.
no.
It's 3.5. It's
Okay.
yeah.
Well, maybe I said 3 and you said 3.5. I don't think I was that far off.
Whatever.
Yeah, it's we had a warm day
Yeah,
last
we
year.
did, yeah.
I mean, totally. I think in my years of being involved with the race, there's been 3 times that we've had warm days. We've
Yeah.
had humidity levels, but it's been overcast and 60-ish, but not the sun and warmth.
Yeah, it came out, and you're completely exposed right there. Oh my, I was dealing with other stuff too, but coming down that last little bit, I'm not ashamed to say I walked a lot.
It was warm.
But that's okay. You made it to the finish line.
Yeah, and
right?
we were doing my team triumph as well, so my whole team was walking with me, and that was the sandbagger.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
But that's okay. I mean, if you have to walk,
Right, I agree.
You make it to the finish line, and that's your goal. Forget the PRs when the weather's
Right,
not
yeah.
in your favor. And just safely get to that finish line, because I'd rather see you finish than see you hauled away in an ambulance.
Yeah, that's very true. I can speak from experience there. Not being hauled off an ambulance, but
I've sat in an ambulance
will
at
not
a
beat
finish
the
line.
heat. You will not beat the heat.
Yeah. So just run smart.
So I do want to touch, because of anybody that we could be talking to about the race, you're one of the people that can. I mean, you've been with the race for 37 years. I really appreciated. Could you just give us a rundown of the what do you call it? The title sponsor, the main sponsor of the race. So it was Old Kent.
Yes.
And then you kind of went through with me yesterday, like, then it was this, and then it was this, and now finally Amway is the title sponsor.
Oh, yes.
Right? Is
Yeah,
that what
yeah.
that's called? Can you just walk us through that a little bit? I think it's just interesting because I know for me, I always default to Fifth Third because
And that's not even the original.
In my time running it and being involved with it, I've always said that. Oh,
Well, it's been
20
20 years. It was.
Yeah.
It was.
But it started as Old Kent, went to Fifth Third, and obviously now Amway is. But could you just walk us through a little bit of that again?
Well, Old Kent was the founding organization with the Grand Rapids Track Club, got
Oh,
together
okay.
got together with them, and they wanted to revitalize downtown, bring something in to downtown. So between Marty Allen from the bank at the time and Frank Cashman of the track club had started talking in 1977 of like, what can we do? And the reason that the race is a 25K is they wanted to run along the river. And the only turnaround place was Wilson, the bridge.
Oh, yeah.
So
yeah.
that's how it became a 25K. It's a unique distance.
Yeah.
There's trail runs that are 25Ks and biking events that are 25Ks, but a running, that 25K just isn't out there in the running world.
It's not, and I will say from experience, man, when you train for, let's say, a half marathon, a 25K is different.
Right.
Those last 2.5 miles will bite you.
Yeah, but you got to look at it as a challenge, right?
Yeah, totally.
That it's pushing you past your norm.
Yeah.
And so the 25K was born 1978, and started out with 1,000 participants, and that was like, oh my gosh, that we're getting 1,000 participants in the first year of an event.
Wow. Yeah.
And so then, it just came to be, and came back every second Saturday in May. So Old Kent was the founding. They took it on. They kind of owned it. They did own it. And then
For 25 years, essentially.
yeah, till
25, 30.
Yep. So
Whatever the math is.
Yeah. So 2001, it was the Old Kent Fifth Third Riverbank Run, because the merger between the two banks
Was that year.
Was that year.
Okay.
And then in 2002, it became officially the Fifth Third Riverbank Run. So that progressed right into 19. I'm sorry. The 40th anniversary was in 2017. And then in 2018, that's when the transition started happening, and Fifth Third got out of owning the event. So then that year it was Fifth Third Riverbank Run, presented by Amway, with Spectrum Health as the health partner of the event. So the three organizations came together to keep the event going.
Gotcha.
And then in 2019, it became the Amway Riverbank Run. So that's what it is
And that's what it is to this day.
today.
Yeah.
Yep.
See,
Gotcha.
Lewis, I keep it easy. Just call it Riverbank Run.
Well, that's what I've started to do. I
Yeah.
just drop, and not to like dismiss because we appreciate those sponsors, and obviously
Most
that's what
definitely.
helps us do these races from the runner's end. It's not that we don't appreciate it. It's just for a race like this, it's so like founded and just
It really is
part
iconic.
of the DNA here.
It is iconic in this area. Like, there's a lot of people that know, even if they're not runners, know what the Riverbank Run is.
for sure.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Even those people that live in the area and you have to deal with them, which we talked about a little
Yeah,
bit yesterday.
yeah, we did.
It's not a surprise. It's, what is it, the second? You said the
Second Saturday in May.
Yeah.
And people still get upset.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, we were talking about some people that have a tendency to put in some complaints, I'll say, or their feelings on
They like
using
to
the roads.
express their feelings about road closures on Saturday morning.
Yeah, which and I just made the comment
get
of
it.
like, this isn't a surprise. This happens every year,
Yeah.
and if you live in the area, you know.
Yeah.
Well, let's. So I want to remind people like what we're doing here this morning. This morning is part of the. It's not. Is it officially part of the race? This
Yes.
the training run.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
I wasn't sure if it was like part
Yep.
of something else.
For
but okay.
Saturday of the month is a traditional training run, and we follow the 25K course training program
Okay.
with turnaround opportunities in between. There's always a distance that somebody can turn around at and come back in if they're not feeling up to whatever. Today was 8 and 12 miles.
So we had. I don't know. What would you guess we're here this morning?
Oh, at least 150 plus people.
150 plus people packed here in this room, talking, getting ready to go out and get their 8 to 12 mile run in, and that was actually really exciting to see just that many people
And there's
out.
probably still more people that didn't come inside.
True.
Yes.
There's still people that are meeting at the zoo where we traditionally meet.
Yeah.
That are running and are training for the Riverbank Run. I mean, you're seeing so many people out as, we hit March for sure.
And Saturday and Sundays are the long distance days,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
Because that's when you can fit it into your schedule.
Yeah. And so they have left us. They are off. They're doing their thing. And part of this is you have your charity sponsors or charity partners come in, and they're able to talk about their charity, and people can get engaged and talk with them. And you have sponsors for those charities that are running for those charities here this morning, but every first, as you said, the first Saturday of the month.
First Saturday of the month.
So just a reminder, that's kind of what we're doing here. I want to talk about one of the things that we briefly touched on yesterday was I found this interesting, was the volunteer, the number of people that will volunteer for a race. Traditionally before, it's a lot of work and there's a ton of volunteers, but you said COVID happened and it seems like people have not been as quick to come back and volunteer.
Oh, yes, I would agree with that. Felt it in October 2021.
When it was in the fall.
Right,
Okay.
right. And, everybody was still trying to keep their distances and mask wearing was still going on if you felt uncomfortable even being outside with, being outside without a mask.
Yeah.
And then I think everybody's just changed. It's just affected them in ways that I don't think anybody would have imagined.
Yeah.
That coming in contact with people, and then when you're a runner, you're sweating, right? So then and I don't know if it scared people. But there's just a hesitation to come out, and we need volunteers to put this event on.
Yeah, how many volunteers roughly does it take to put on Riverbank Run?
No, that's okay. I mess up too.
No,
I asked Lauralee yesterday. I said,
will keep messing up though.
Oh my! I asked her yesterday. I said, "How often? Or when's the last time you called it Old Cat?"
Yeah, I've kind of shortened it down to Riverbank Run because I get tongue tied.
Yeah. Amway.
Yeah, exactly.
So the question: how many roughly volunteers does it take to put on? Riverbank.
Old Kent.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh.
The race.
The race.
I think last year, with the course revamping and everything, we've gotten the numbers down to more of a realistic number, and it's close to 750 people.
Wow.
See, there is advantages. Like, we want these perfect courses set up to where I don't see the same thing twice and you do all this stuff, but people don't realize how much more it takes to put that on. And there's a cost to that.
A cost to it, and the logistics of trying to make it happen. So, the first thing out of the gate is construction. What construction does the city have planned for me? Or planned? And then how does it affect me and the race? And I've got construction projects right now that I'm waiting to find out whether or not they're really going to start.
No.
For March, and then the impact. Anything big that has affected the highways or overpasses or main trunk lines, MDOT has always been really great with working out a way that we can continue to use that part of the course, even in the middle of construction.
Nice.
Well, last year they had a ramp down one of the sidewalks for us.
Yeah.
I remember that. It was just one little section, but, when you're pushing a cart, you have to keep that in mind.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of us can kind of get through it, but...
Yeah, up on Scribner, when they were working up on 196, the bridges over the water, they had Scribner was their work zone. And so this goes 2018, 2019. And they moved their equipment out for us on Friday.
Oh, wow.
And then put it all back on
Wow.
the weekend for the Monday, for them to be back at work on Monday morning.
Yeah, in the fall race, we were on dirt, and I was doing my team triumph and pushing that cart on dirt.
Yeah,
was
yeah,
not,
we
had to deal with it.
Yeah, we had a little bit of that in spots, and so there's always something. But the city has been good to work with, and
this is a big part of the city, so people want to make sure it happens.
Yeah. So the pedestrian extensions and the crosswalks, it's like, okay, that kind of surprised me because when COVID was going on, I didn't come downtown for anything, right?
Yeah.
We didn't do our normal stuff.
Right.
We didn't go places. And so that was a perfect time for them to get that construction job done, right?
Yeah.
Because downtown wasn't busy. So I kind of gave them a little grief about that. But, we just sometimes you got to make it happen.
But there's construction that can cause congestion just getting into park and things like that. So you're trying to keep participants in the loop. So if they shut down a highway, they're still supposed to shut down one of the
196 over Market was a major 3-year project.
Yep.
I think that's been pushed out into the future. I got to get it confirmed, but I thought
it was supposed to be shut down already.
Yeah,
I think so.
They were going to redo the bridge over the river.
Yeah.
Yeah. So all of that impacts us. And we do a parking and I work through a parking and transportation document, and but that's on paper and that's on the website. It can't change overnight.
Yeah.
And so all of the folks come in. They got to do their own research too. They got to do their own homework to come into town. So if there's a detour, they got to pull up their Google Maps and figure it out, or whatever they're using. But, we try to communicate as much as we can, but we can't do it all.
Yeah.
But
that really is a full-time job. It's got to be stressful thinking about some of that
It
stuff, too.
is. That's kind of why it's my last year.
Yeah, that's the bittersweet piece. You've been a part of it for so long. I don't want to leave. I want to make sure that I stress the importance of the volunteers because, and it's something we have talked about on the podcast recently, but 750 volunteers roughly, plus or minus. That's a lot of people. And we literally talked about this, what will be 2 weeks ago on the podcast?
I think
or
so.
Last week,
Yeah.
something like that. But anyway, it's a great way to just get involved with a race when you are either in an off season, whether
Injured,
that's injury, whatever. Get involved with a race. I'm sure you could use some more volunteers right now.
Oh, definitely. To be honest, I have 2 aid stations out on the 25K course that don't have any volunteers. Don't have a group to kind of oversee it. So that's 80, 90 volunteers.
Holy
right there.
Smokes.
And if I don't get those filled, I have to revamp.
Yeah.
So right now, aid stations are every 2 miles.
Will you usually get like a group to come in if they can? And
We strongly encourage groups to come in, and
like a high school, or I know like at the bottom, like the halfway point, there's always I'm trying to think of the who usually runs that. They have like it's almost like guard people.
Yeah,
there.
it was the Michigan
yeah.
Youth Challenge Academy out of Battle Creek.
Yeah, that was all these young cadets.
They had done that for years, and then COVID hit, and I haven't been able to re-engage with them yet. But they were so reliable. I never had to worry about them, even when the weather was bad or their transportation got screwed up out of Battle Creek. They always made it, and they pulled it together and made
That's
it happen.
Cool.
So we've got the major partners, Amway, Fifth Third, and Corewell Health, all have aid stations. I have one school group out of Hudsonville that is manning another aid station. So I've got 5 aid stations covered, and I have 2 that right now don't have anybody to own them.
So if you're listening to this
Yes.
and you have any connections to a group, or you have a group of people that want to help out,
We would love to have you.
yeah, contact. How does a group, or how does somebody go about doing that?
They can look at the website.
Okay.
Our volunteer page has everything on it to volunteer information and contact. So like for the aid stations, my contact information is out there.
Gotcha.
Any general volunteer information, our main email box, runinfo@amwayriverbankrun.com, fields the general questions.
Gotcha.
So, and just groups in general. If you're a nonprofit, there's a donation opportunity. If you provide 20 volunteers, aid stations, if you can staff a full aid station, there's a donation opportunity. So we have those opportunities out there, and just, it's a great Saturday morning. It's fun once you're there and see what you're doing and see those runners. And of course, aid stations are close to my heart because that's where I started. That's where I always, they're like my little babies. And it is so fulfilling to be out there and see what you've just helped every participant accomplish. Whether you're in packet pickup inside where it's nice and cozy, temperature controlled, weather controlled, to being at the start line, being at the finish line, being at an aid station, course safety. We have volunteers that help out on intersections or parking lots to keep cars from driving down the road into runners. And of course, there's there's police officers at every corner, but we can't cover everything, so we need to kind of add in volunteers where those officers can't be. And that is one area that is always a struggle to fill.
Okay.
Always.
That's good to know.
And I don't know why. It's an easy job. You can be a cheerleader while you're out there, manning that parking lot. And then there's some spots where you get to hang out with a GRPD officer, and how cool is that? You get to see them in a totally different way. And I cannot speak more highly of the Grand Rapids Police Department and everything that they do to make the event safe, and how they're out there during the race watching out. And it's Walker, and it's Wyoming, and it's Granville. And,
true.
It's and Kent County Reserve officers are out there with us. We pull in other municipalities. We had Holland Motos there. They come in and help. So to have the Holland Police Department come in on their motorcycles, they're driving in, number one, from Holland, and then they're just part of those lead vehicles that are out there. And one of my favorite pictures that I had, that I jumped out of the car and I took it last 2021, was all the motorcycles lined up on Fulton at Valley. And they were watching the race, and they filled the whole intersection. And it's like, oh my gosh. So I ran up there and I said, oh, can I get a selfie with all of you guys? And I don't usually do that. But, I'm winding down my tenure here, and I want to have memories.
Yeah.
I'm going to get worked up here. So there were 3 guys from the fire department standing there at the intersection. And I asked one of them to take my picture with the police department.
Oh, jeez.
And they're like, what? Because I think at first they thought there was something wrong with me or I needed their help. Oh. And it's like, no, I need you to take a picture of me in the group here.
Oh, my goodness.
So, wait. Can I take a picture with you too?
Yeah. That's what I meant. You're next.
You're next.
Yeah. So, I put it on my Facebook profile. I really like it.
That's cool. Speaking of memorable photos, one of the photos I have is actually my banner photo from this race. Because of doing the 3 races, I got out on the 25K late. And so I'm like the only one right before my team Triumph goes. I'm the only one going down the start. I am literally the only one on the road. Rudy took that picture, and it is probably one of my favorite. It's like top 2 race photos is from Riverbank Run.
Well, yeah, because you're like out on the street all by yourself.
Yeah.
How cool is that?
Completely
Right
open.
downtown Grand Rapids.
It was a cool picture.
It is a very cool picture.
Especially if you got the start banner behind you, you know, and you're
well,
the only
it's actually
one.
on the other side, so it's
Oh.
going out.
Okay.
He's
Well, that's what makes the picture so much better is it doesn't have
Yes.
your face in it.
yeah, yes, yeah, yeah.
So it's the back end of you.
It
what
is. It is. Yeah. Well, cool. Yeah. So if you want to volunteer, if you want to help out, please do go check out the website. This has been a lot of fun. Thank you so much, Mitch. Any final comments for Lauralee before we let her go? She's got to get back there. Our runner's starting to come in. So.
No, I fit in as much as I could, I think.
Well, hey, thank you so much, and thank you for all of the years of making this the event that it has been, because if you're listening to this and you have ran this race, you can thank Lauralee as well, because she has basically done all the operations for the race,
Yeah.
put it together, taken all the complaints from people that some people are just going to complain. It doesn't matter what you do. So.
Right. Doesn't matter
I'm
what
sure
I
over the
say,
years
what
you have-
options. Yeah.
Yeah, growing some thick skin, because you're just never going to be able to please everybody, especially in a race that is, it's a long race, and it's going to take up some time on some roads. So
Yeah.
thank you so much for joining us. This has been a lot of fun. We are going to let you go and get back to doing what you do. And yeah, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me. It's been fun. I've enjoyed it.
And it
Thank
is the Amway Riverbank Run.
Oh, just quit trying.
Yeah.
Thanks
All
a
right.
lot.
Thank you.
Well, hey, I hope you enjoyed all of these interviews and these discussions that we had with different people from the Amway Riverbank Run training run, from Amway, from the Riverbank Run, all different kinds of people. Hope you enjoyed all of those discussions and interviews and chats. And yeah, if you want to get involved, whether that's signing up for the race, getting to be a part of one of the charity partners, becoming a partner or becoming involved with Amway somehow, or volunteering for the Riverbank Run itself, check the links below. I'll have links for all of the charity partners. I'll have a link down there for the Riverbank Run itself, so you can register to run the event, or you can register to volunteer actually you could volunteer during the week even leading up to the race. Then you could volunteer on race day as well, or one or the other. But yeah, that's going to wrap up this week's episode of the I Don't Know Running podcast. Be sure to tune in next time as we share more about what we just don't know. And until then, happy running.